The next event, the next one was worse. So much worse. It happened 2 days after that night. I had tried to stay invisible, hoping to bury myself in work and erase the horrors I had seen. The general's dark ritual haunted me, but I told myself if I just kept my head down, I could avoid any more danger. But something was off in the State House. The air was thick with tension. Every glance from the soldiers felt sharper, like they were looking for something or someone. The staff moved quicker, their footsteps quieter, like they were trying not to be noticed. Conversations happened in whispers, and there was this constant feeling that something terrible was looming over us. I thought maybe I could go unnoticed. I was just a clerk, after all. A nobody. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The next event confirmed it. On the second afternoon after that awful night, I sat hunched over my desk, my fingers tapping nervously at the keyboard. I tried to focus on the files in front of me, but my mind kept drifting to the general's office, to the heart he had eaten in the dead of night. I couldn't forget the look in his eyes, that cold, lifeless stare. It was like he had looked right through me, even though I hadn't been caught. Or so I thought. My phone buzzed. Another message. The same unknown number that had sent me the chilling warning before. You were seen? I froze. The file slipped from my hands, paper scattering across the desk. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding in my ears. The room seemed to tilt for a moment, and my breath caught in my throat. You were seen? I knew exactly what it meant. I had been foolish to think I could escape the general's notice. My mind raced. How much did they know? Were they planning something? But before I could process it, my desk phone rang. The sharp, jarring sound cut through my panic, and I almost knocked the phone over trying to pick it up. The general wants to see you, a voice said, flat and cold. The blood drained from my face. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. My body felt paralyzed by the command. I wanted to refuse, to run, to disappear, but my legs carried me to his office as if they had a mind of their own. The hallway felt longer than usual, every shadow darker, every noise louder. I could feel the soldiers' eyes on me as I walked past, my heart pounding so hard I was sure they could hear it. The doors to the general's office opened with a slow, ominous creak, and I stepped inside. The office was dimly lit again, just like the last time. General Okoro sat at his desk, his massive frame casting a shadow across the room. His face was barely visible in the faint glow of his desk lamp, but I could feel his eyes on me. Watching. Waiting. Close the door, he ordered, his voice steady, devoid of any warmth. I closed it, feeling the weight of the command pressing down on me. The room was so quiet, I could hear my own breathing, shallow and shaky. The ticking of the clock on the wall was the only sound, each tick stretching the moment out longer, making the tension unbearable. Then he finally spoke. You've been loyal so far, haven't you? He asked, his tone almost casual, as if he were commenting on the weather. Yes, sir, I replied, my voice weak, trembling. His eyes lifted, meeting mine for the first time. They were as cold and empty as before, like the eyes of a predator that had already decided what to do with its prey. You saw something you shouldn't have. His voice was low, but there was no mistaking the threat behind it. It wasn't a question. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. I couldn't answer. I couldn't breathe. The silence in the room was crushing, like a weight I couldn't escape from. The general stood up slowly, his movements deliberate, and walked around his desk. Every step seemed to drag out the moment, stretching it painfully, making the air thicker. When he reached me, he stopped just inches away, his presence overwhelming. I want you to remember something, Emeka, he said, his voice quiet but filled with menace. There are no secrets in this house. No one is invisible. I felt my knees weaken. His words felt like a death sentence, hanging over me like a noose. Do you understand? He asked, his voice softer now, almost mocking, but still dangerous. Yes, sir, I whispered, my voice barely audible. He lingered for a moment, watching me, studying me, as if deciding what to do next. Then, without warning, he stepped back and turned to the window, looking out into the darkened courtyard below. "You may leave," he said, his voice dismissive. I didn't waste a second. I rushed out of the office, my heart racing, my legs shaky beneath me. As soon as the door closed behind me, I broke into a run, not caring who saw me. I needed to get out. I needed to breathe. But just as I reached the staff quarters, my phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "It's not over." I stopped in my tracks, staring at the screen, my mind spinning. Who was sending these messages? How much did they know? And why were they targeting me? Before I could make sense of it, the lights in the corridor flickered. Then everything went dark. The power was out. I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, straining to see in the blackness. But then I heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Coming from behind me, out of the darkness. I turned, panic surging through me. I couldn't see anything, just the sound of those footsteps getting closer, faster. My pulse quickened. My legs started moving on their own. I ran. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. The footsteps were gaining on me. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I couldn't stop. And just as I reached the exit door, I felt a hand grab my shoulder. I screamed.